All right, moving on to Mr. Richard Branson. He has entered space with the tourist project of his, which he's been working on for decades and decades and decades. But after 20 years of development, Sir Richard Branson has officially entered the billionaire space tourism race when his Virgin Galactic rocket plane Unity achieved a successful flight with paying tourist customers. Richard has sold an estimated 800 seats so far, at around almost $500,000 per seat. With the expectation that's going to, tenfold after this development. You can see them waving the flag. They're all celebrating. They're all happy. They are in space, even if it's briefly before it comes back down to Earth, and then obviously, thankfully, safely lands. In the same way that we've seen SpaceX being able to go up and down. This is a little bit different in terms of how it lands. It's more of like a plane feel, but still a successful. These people are astronauts now. These 4 or 5 people that went into space, they paid $500,000, and they can now put astronaut in their Instagram bio or something, which is like pretty cool. What are your thoughts on Sir Richard Branson taking tourists into space, Mihir?
So the way I see it is that space, or any space business, is divided into 3 segments at the moment. So one is payload delivery or space baggage delivery, which is like delivering satellites or any other components required in space.
Which is where the money is as well at the moment. With like the SpaceX, like Starlink is like keeping the cash cow.
Blue Origin, etc.
Exactly.
And the other is space tourism, and then there is space exploration.
Yeah.
And I think space tourism is one of the things which I don't understand or can't empathize with unless it's feeding into the pipeline of baggage delivery. Because like if you are launching any product, right, and then you would draw a customer journey map of like what is the applicable addressable market size, etc. Yeah. For space tourism, addressable market size, you can just pull a Wikipedia where it's like any one net worth over this, those are the people I need to contact.
Sure.
So it's something I clearly can't empathize with because I don't have that sort of a money or would ever will, where it's just something which I can understand or empathize with it.
Yeah.
But if that company is feeding into something around payload delivery, then I can understand that this is something worth doing overall. But till then, I don't understand it.
Yeah, well, with the satellites, that's like the obvious way to make the cash if you're gonna spend billions going into space, right? Yeah. Or like mining an asteroid or something in the future. That will probably be another like use case and way to fund getting people up there. I know what you're saying. It's really expensive at $500,000 to get somebody into space, but maybe that cost will come down. Maybe they keep doing it, and I don't know exactly what it could come down to. I mean, it's still space. Yeah. It's still pretty expensive. I mean, but eventually that price obviously will become a little bit more stomachable for maybe upper middle class people or something.
But even if you take the cost itself, I'm not sure how they're making money off it. Like I'm not even sure whether this is a profitable thing or not, because if it's 800 people, $500,000 per ticket, if there is I think 8 or 12 people per delivery, I think it costs more at the moment.
I think it probably would. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but like with the it's tech. I mean, it doesn't have to make money right now. It can lose money forever, and then it can make a lot of money later on when they go public or sell or merge or whatever. Different world, isn't it? When you come to these kind of fast growing unicorn type businesses. I mean, this is a 2-decade-old company, so not. But space, anything on the cutting edge is a little bit different when it comes to profit and valuations, right? So, this clip was actually sent to me on Twitter, or X now. My handle will be on the screen at the moment if people want to send me clips on there and have their products, services, news featured on the show. What's your take, Rob, on this story?
Yeah, I was initially wondering about the economics of it because, as you say, it's at best you can consider it a loss leader. And then I started thinking about, well, if they take that income and use it and turn back into building the infrastructure around the launch, because the infrastructure that they need to get a few space tourists up is the same infrastructure they need to get payload up. So I feel it's a case where they could be using this to fund the research and the infrastructure needed for the more profitable part of the business.
Yeah. And then the ultimate goal is what you mentioned earlier, up space exploration, right? That would be like the dream, is to go to Mars and beyond and to the stars. It's a question that I've asked on the show a couple of times to people, but if I frame it to you chaps, if you both had like a free ticket to go to Mars, let's say, for example, keeping in mind you're probably not coming back right now. Like if the early people that go to Mars, they're not going there for a holiday. They're going to help set up infrastructure, and they're probably going to die there. After a couple of years, it's not going to be a great existence. But you get your name in the history books, right? As one of the the Neil Armstrongs of the world. Free ticket? Would you guys say yes? Would you pass? What would your thoughts be?
I'd take it in a flash.
You take it?
Probably wouldn't qualify for it, but I'd definitely take it.
I think I'd have to do a take as well. I mean, it's one of those things, right? But I'm sure my wife wouldn't be too happy when I tell her. But what about you, Mihir?
No, I don't think I would take it.
More sensible than us.
Mostly because I don't want to take that long flight.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably a year plus. I would get quite bored on the way.
I mean, it wouldn't be very entertaining. Yeah. It would be a pretty boring. I mean, it'd be great to everybody else that knows the story, but you actually on there. The thing about Mars is it's not a great place like to live. It's got little rocks, huge rocks flying around. Gravity's terrible. You can't go outside. It's it's not very hospitable. What the word is? So I don't really think it's like the sort of thing that people would really, really want to do. It's not like a billionaire vacation. Like people think, you're going to Mars, you must have loads of money. It's like a great way for a billionaire to get away for a weekend. No, it's not exactly that. But yeah. Well, what about when it becomes more? I suppose you mentioned the tourism angle here. Do you think in our lifetimes that's going to be a real thing? People going in. I mean, obviously we've seen it with Branson, but this is like a couple of billionaires on a on a trial. Do you think in your lifetimes you'll see daily trips to space where the average person, not average person perhaps, but somebody with not crazy amounts of money could put their hand up and go on some kind of adventure? What do you think, Rob?
Interesting question. I think it's feasible.
Yeah.
If we look at the history of space flight, we had the big burst in the last century.
Yeah.
The US got a cold feet around the costs of it for a while. It all went very quiet for a few decades, and then it's gone into the public sector. And on the back of the public sector interest, there's been a renewed interest from the nation states in this.
Yeah.
Because what we're seeing is the price of getting something to orbit is coming down all the time.
Yeah.
And the reliability and the safety of going to orbit is coming down all the time. And I think that those two things will come together as sweet spot where it's, hey, let's spend 10 grand and go to space.
I mean, the big thing with the price was when Elon figured out how to make it land, because the cost is the rocket. I mean, it's crazy. You're sending this thing worth billions into space, and then it's gone. It's not reusable. But having it land and then being able to use it again and again and again, and imagine it flying to a planet, landing, and then flying to another one, landing. I mean, that's like the big thing that got the price down. Yeah,
I heard it described by Ian Dunt a couple of days ago as, imagine you take a flight in a 747 across the Atlantic and then throw it away.
Exactly. Yeah. Not even a return trip.
No return trip.
Yeah. What's your opinion here? Do you think in your lifetime you'll have your children perhaps going into space? What do you think?
So if we draw parallels with the commercial airline industry, so if you think of a private jet or a chartered flight, that is still only available to less than 0.01% of the population. Mm-hmm. I'm not even talking about buying a private jet, but just chartering a flight from, say, here, London to Paris.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think of commercial, it went through a layers of regulation as well, and a lot of safety aspects of in-flight behavior. So even if you have a rocket of capability, because these rockets are slightly different than the payload delivery one, because this rocket, there's something which boosts it up to 15 kilometers, and then there is another boost up to 90 kilometers, and then it comes back. So it's quite different from the payload delivery rockets, which is just completely a single component till it gets out of the stratosphere.
Okay, sure.
So I think given that even chartered flight is just only available to 0.01% of the population at the moment, and this will never get to a place of safety regulation where you can take like 300 people at the same point of time, because managing 300 people in zero gravity and ensuring they don't have their seatbelts on at that layer.
It's going to be a big ship, right?
Yeah.
Small children ricocheting around the cabin.
Maybe I like imagination, but I just see it quite difficult that this happening during my lifetime.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, who knows? We had other types of space products than before, which perhaps might be a little bit more realistic, there was Spaceship Neptune, which is basically a hot air balloon which takes you into space and allows you can have like a private dinner and stuff. And that I can see that sort of thing happening because you don't have to worry about a huge rocket or anything. It's quite a different concept, and that I think that sort of thing could make space tourism very accessible because it was like a 100, 200 grand or something, so it was like a lot cheaper than this. But it doesn't quite have the same appeal. Like going up in a rocket versus going up in a hot air balloon, they feel like different things, don't they? If that makes sense.